AI, also known as artificial intelligence, is here to help us and not hurt us for the most part right now. And one place it wants to help us is with that thing on your wrist that you wear to track all of your running data. Find out if your running smartwatch insights and data are lying to you, and more in this episode of Trees and D-Lake. What you'll learn, what exactly the insights are for each platform and watch, why you still need a coach along with your smartwatch, why most smartwatches don't give you an objective to work towards, or at least I think that. Take your smartwatch data with a grain of salt. Recovery times, why recovery times are not optimized for everyone. And I sum it all up why I think that. Is VO2 max a necessary statistic to help you run fast? How do smartwatch insights actually help you run faster? What we love about it and what we don't, comparing VO2 max to Victoria's Secret bras and measuring male genitalia. Yes, it's a fun one, I promise. And much more. Let's get into it. We're talking about smartwatch insights and all of the fun smartwatch out there. So Garmin, you got even Strava kind of gives you insights. Training Peaks, Coros, Polar, Whoop, Oura Ring, probably not going to get for a while. I just feel like it's a double up on my Garmin. The Apple Watch, all of them are giving you insights. All right, so before we talk about why we don't like them, why we think they're useful, let's define them. So Mike, if you want to define what are the smartwatch insights?
To be honest, it does a quality of sleep as well. To give them a bit of merit, is the quality of sleep's not too bad. My wife uses that a lot, and it picks up when she has a bad night's sleep. That metric doesn't seem to be too far off.
You might even answer this. Heart rate variability?
Heart rate variability.
And resting heart rate. Yeah, you know all about that, but feel free to define that.
Yeah, the metrics are put in there to help guide people. Although some of them are helpful, most people don't actually understand them and don't understand how the data is compiled. I accept that this quality of sleep is quite a good metric. It's telling me at the moment my VO2 max is declining, which is good. Yeah, that's right, because I'm not training much. Some reason it calculates the VO2 a lot higher than it should do. So everyone comes out with an artificially high VO2.
I have an analogy. It's like Victoria's Secret bras. Like I remember when I was young, I remember a lot of the girls being like, "Oh, I'm a C cup at Victoria's Secrets," when actually they were being every other bra. But it's like Victoria's there to make you feel like, you have bigger boobs. And it's the same. If we could measure our penises, it'd be the same for penis size. But it's like, oh, I have an inflated VO2 max. But if you were actually going a machine that gets the oxygen, the carbon dioxide output from your system and you run on it, my VO2 max is 10 points lower when I did the machine than what it's saying on my watch. And I know you've done the machine too, so you know that. So you keep going.
But also the VO2 max is only a measurement of how you performed at that time on that day. So your VO2 max will vary. If you're tired, you're going to get an artificially lower VO2 max even when you're taking oxygen samples on a machine. So that VO2 is very complex. It should be taken quite often to get a baseline for it. Is VO2 necessarily an important statistic? To some point, if your VO2 is very low, which is the volume of oxygen that you can use per minute per kilogram, if it's low, it's obviously not good. You get to a certain point where, Derek Clayton, I famously quote, in the 70s broke the marathon world record. I think he was the first guy to go sub 210 for a marathon, 209. His VO2 was 69, which is pretty low. My VO2, the highest I had recorded, was 84. I think Christian Blumenfeld, who is the best triathlete in the world at the moment, I think he's 93. So again, roughly correlates, but you can make yourself very efficient at running and use very little oxygen. So you don't have to have a high VO2 if you become more efficient. Obviously, Derek Clayton was a very efficient running. So that statistic, while being, I think, is off, it's also not necessarily an important statistic. And yet people get stressed up and hooked up on it a lot. Stress load on the watch, and it says you need 36 hours to recover from this run. It's based on your maximum heart rate and what percentage you've worked of your maximum heart rate on that training, and relies on your zones being set up correctly, and very often they're not. Most people have just put their watch in, put their date of birth in, and off they go. And so their zones could be totally wrong. So my heart rate's super low. The setting's really on the watch apart from putting my date of birth and my weight in there. And so it's always saying that I'm under training, so I can go out and do a hard run, and it says your recovery time is 12 hours, where really ideally I know it's 36 to 48 because my heart rate's generally lower. Without going into all the data too much, if you don't understand how the data is compiled and see if they're varying over time, that's the main thing. If you're doing well with your training and it's always saying you need 12 hours to recover, but you did 24. So there's lots of little things.
I like it. Always nice to get Mike's point of view on certain things that I think it polarizes a lot of people where they get really frustrated. Or on the flip side, we sat down, we defined it. Mike talked about why he doesn't like it. He talked about why he thinks it's useful. You got to pick apart certain things. So you really like the sleep score and all those things that Garmin does. Everyone has their own thing. The body battery, I will give it this. The body battery that Garmin has, which I think Coros has a version of body battery, phenomenal. It actually is really, really nice to see the body battery, but it's just correlated on your resting heart rate, your heart rate variability. HRV.
Variability.
And, it does take into account, how you slept and all those other things. Yeah.
Look, some people get hooked up on stats. Some people love stats. If it motivates you, gets you out training, it's good. But if the watch runs your life, it's bad. Remember, you're the boss and the watch is a tool. Don't let the watch run your life. You need to run the watch and decide what you're doing. And that's just a little bit of extra data to help you make the decision what's best for you. So, take it all with a pinch of salt.
Always. I will say there's one thing that I think that the watches don't do, which a coach does. And this is all the reason why I coach. And I guess they don't give you any input objective. So obviously the input is how long you've been running and how long you've been sleeping and, your heart rate and the pace and all these other things, your body weight. And the coach would then be like, do these runs, start doing more, Ironman specific. Or if I'm doing the 5K, I'll do a lot of base in the beginning. So this thing almost is I feel like it's just very generic in general. It's like, oh, I'm just a person that likes to be generally fit. Okay, so I did 6 weeks of the hardest training I've ever done since I've had a smartwatch, over the last 10 years. My heart rate was through the roof. And I barely think I got it to the lowest part of enough or anaerobic. And it still was saying you need more anaerobic. I'm like, I can't give you any more. I'm going to kill myself. What do you want? You want my heart rate to be at one pegged at 190, the whole 30-minute run?
It means that the settings in their algorithm are wrong for you.
Absolutely.
It doesn't understand the settings and the parameters for you. You said objective, subjective. I think the thing is, it's trying to be objective and give you objective data. But what a coach can do is he can be subjective. At some point, that will come with, i.e., coach can look at you and say, look, I know your history, I know where you're going, and they can change it. You read so much these days about potential and physical potential. When you're tired, I probably David Goggins that said it, you're probably on about 20-30% of what you've actually got in the body. The smartwatch is measuring and saying, you're 90% or you're there or thereabouts. So it needs to be safe. It can't have people having heart attacks and dying because the watch is giving these statistics out. So it needs to be a little bit objective. But a coach can look and he can motivate people. What a coach can do with his athletes, he can understand them and say, look, get in the gym. I know the watch is saying this, that, and the other, but if we can get some more core stability work, if we can get a bit more power, we can get you stronger. Coach can really motivate and push and understand the athlete so much more than a smartwatch. I think IE will get there soon, but I just think there's too much information to get condensed into the size of a watch. I just don't think you get all that processing power in the watch to do it in real time. I remember when I was at university, my first degree was actually in weather forecasting, and we calculated that the computers could work out weather forecasting, but it would take about 1 week to forecast the next hour ahead on the computers at that time. So it was possible to do, but it's really ridiculous, isn't it? Waiting a week to find out what's going to happen in an hour's time. It will happen with IE, the same thing with the watches and things. We will get much better and they will get defined, but it's a learning curve at the moment, and each year the watches are getting better. But there'll always be a place for a coach, a physical guy to help motivate and tweak and work with his athlete and set goals and parameters for them.
You mean artificial intelligence, correct?
Yeah,
AI. Yeah, there we go.
I said EI at first, and then I changed it to AI. Yeah, I totally mean AI. Yes.